My lords, today we are going to explore, in depth, the known subterranean empires that we have identified throughout our galaxy's history. Subterranean empires, like the name suggests, shelter underground from harsh light and climate. This provides them with easy access to the minerals below, and allows, at least in our observation, faster paths to industrialization, which further increases the speed at which they tunnel through the cores of their planets, and therefore expand. As a generalization, they appear to be far more efficient and effective than surface empires at mineral production. They can also settle most worlds with little issue. After all, the weather underground is largely the same on a jungle planet or an Arctic one, non-existent. They do, however, appear to breed far slower than surface-bearing empires, perhaps as a result of the confined space, lack of light, or perhaps the fact that they're often lithoid by nature. Nevertheless, they exist, and they thrive. I shall detail several key subterranean empires that we have dealt with in our history. And we'll begin with Dr. Solo, who investigates an empire that found themselves inside the belly of a great beast. Myself and the crew, during routine surveillance of the Exogroth system, identified a tomb world that on first inspection we assumed to be uninhabited. Surface scans of the planet, however, would potentially prove us wrong, as we picked up an extensive network of subterranean tunnels of truly astounding proportions, making swirls in an almost artistic manner in the crust of the planet. I have to wonder who or what could have created them, for they are quite beautiful. We of course made planetfall to investigate further. Within only several days, myself and the team had successfully unearthed enough sections of the tube-like swirling hollows on the planet that we have named Algo, and we were able to conclude that these were the fossilized remains of an enormous arthropod. This alien creature is carbon dated to have lived some 10 million years ago, and it appears to have tunneled quite slowly through the crust of the planet like a burrowing millipede, but one of incredible proportion. Even more remarkably, many of the components embedded in the magnificent creature's fossilized remains appear to be of an artificial origin. These imprints are found primarily within the creature's main body segment, and they look like habitations built by smaller, advanced, tool-using aliens. The team and I are investigating further. A number of weeks have now passed since my last report, and we have undergone extensive excavation of the fossilized imprints within the giant subterranean arthropod. And our findings have confirmed that these are indeed the remnants of a city. This city appears to have been populated by hundreds of thousands of quite small aliens, we think only around 1 meter in height, but they were tool-using creatures, and it would appear that the city was constructed within the very bowels of the gigantic arthropod. We currently have no idea how the creatures found their way inside of the subterranean giant, but their pre-Bronze Age society seems to have flourished for thousands of years within its digestive tract. We're attempting to investigate further, but we wish to discover more insight into their society's history and its subsequent downfall. We also hope to glean more about the death of their host. After painstaking analysis of a large number of fossils and a few miraculous finds of early writing, our archaeologists have reached a conclusion regarding the relationship between the primitive civilization and the gigantic arthropod that was once home to them. While the city dwellers were largely resistant to the intestinal fluids of their arthropod host, the constant exposure to the mildly chemically corrosive gas of the host digestive tract vastly shortened their lifespans. As the small aliens advanced in medicine and the scientific process, the citizens themselves became aware that they were in fact living within the digestive tract of a much larger creature. It appears that these small aliens then launched a magnificent war against their host. They armed every member of the city in an attempt to destroy the creature that they were living inside of. Despite the tiny civilization's attempts, it would all be for naught. The turmoil that they created in the arthropod's lower gut led to severe peristalsis, resulting in the entire civilization of their tiny city dwellers being regurgitated back into the arthropod's stomach cavity. Subsequently, their entire populace was promptly dissolved by the host's virulent stomach acid. The giant arthropod, it would seem, lived for several more millennia before perishing from simple old age. A sad ending indeed for this tiny civilization. One must imagine how terrifying it must have been for these tiny people to attempt to cut their way out of the worm, only to end up being slowly dissolved with no way out. The next subterranean empire that we will delve into has been archived as the Whispers in the Stone event, or unofficially, the Accidental Genocide. Our recent advancements in mining technology have enabled us to bore deeper into the crust on one of our newer colonies. In the depth of its mineral mines, we have stumbled upon traces of an ancient alien civilization leading further into the mountainous terrain of the world. The civilization seems to have been built along an unexploited ore vein. Excavation of the site will impede our mining operations on the planet, and likely mean the newly found mineral vein would become far more difficult to extract. However, given our Empire's standing orders to obtain any and all galactic knowledge and history, the planetary governor ordered a science team to begin excavation. Doctors Took and Brandybuck led the excavation. An initial scan of the site suggested a many-leveled subterranean city carved from a natural cave system. Multiple dense mineral veins ran the length of the site, including gold, iron, and likely diamond deposits. The scan suggested a spiderweb-like structure with but one entrance, a long, winding cavernous vein poking out to the surface. The science team advanced through this long winding cave and eventually reached a set of marvellously ornamentally designed gates, preventing any way further forward. Whoever built these gates surely had a rich culture and were expert engineers, for not only were they beautiful, but they also appeared to be an environmental seal. They are seamless, and no air flows from one side to the other. Travelling deeper into the cave system would require dismantling or piercing these great gates. Although Took and Brandybuck jokingly tried, reciting the word friend did not allow them entry. The team set about drilling into the gates in order to begin dismantling them. Explosive charges were not used, as scans appeared to show the environment beyond the gates being made up of mostly methane gas, highly explosive when ignited. The rocks were quite porous and seemed to be releasing the gas into the cave system. The team carefully dismantled the massive gates which blocked further exploration of the mountain. As the gates came down, a marvellous rush of gases came pouring out of the mountain. Methane, being lighter than oxygen, gushed out of the now breached subterranean city, and oxygen poured in. The city could now be explored safely, although the doctors point out how anything could have lived down here, let alone built a city in this deadly environment, is beyond them. In any case, work dismantling the gates was completed without disturbing the integrity of the dig site, and it appeared that the scans of the tunnels were indeed correct. This ant-like tunnel system converges kilometres below the surface in an abandoned city, which the doctors report dates back many thousands of years. As the doctors and their team push into the city, they report it to be designed in a similar way to the great gates that block their entrance. Marvellously well-designed great sculptures and beautiful ornate buildings. Whoever lived here was indeed a master of stonecraft. Great swathes of precious metals had been used as decorations, reflecting the light of the team's torches. It was truly a wonderful sight to behold. The city, unsurprisingly, was deserted. Our scans had detected no signs of life. However, bizarrely, the city is populated instead by gruesomely grimacing crystal statues, posed in lifelike situations as if frozen in time. There are thousands of statues all over the city, in places quite odd for ornamentation. For example, there are statues operating mines, with pickaxes still in hand, statues fallen over in agony, statues perhaps of a couple, or perhaps a family, locked in an embrace, and others appear to be running, although from what we cannot tell. More disturbingly, these statues almost look like people. Although clearly extremely alien, one can see the resemblance in the behaviour. The doctors report it seems unthinkable that the masterful stonecutters who built this city, and were clearly capable of such beauty and grace, would also make something so crude. Yet these statues clearly held great importance and significance to their society. Not only are they everywhere in it, they also feature prominently in carvings and tablets all over the city. Translations of the stone tablets reveal that the city and its culture indeed does revolve around the enigmatic statues, which are reportedly called the Kalanka. Never are the stonecutters themselves mentioned. The tablets detail a mysterious creation tale. Not unlike myths told on ancient Earth, they tell of a race of godlike creatures who came down from the heavens and breathed life into the mountain. These creatures birthed the Kalanka from fire and stone deep within the world's molten core. Brandybuck and Took wonder if the stonecutters imagine themselves as gods over their statues' creations. Or perhaps the statues were created in the stonecutters' image. One of the statues was taken aboard the Doctor's science vessel, the Shire, in order to conduct a detailed material scan. What the scan revealed was quite disturbing. Apparently these statues were once alive. Their genetic composition resembles no other sample we have ever encountered. They appear to be a silicon-based life form, or lithoid, also known as rock people, that has somehow reverted back into a crystal state. The Doctors revisit the creation myth told in the stone tablets. Perhaps the stonecutters really did find a way to create life from fire and stone. It appears, my lords, we may have accidentally committed genocide. Details to follow. After further material scanning and experimentation on the liberated statue, the Doctors believe the statues, i.e. the Kalanka, are also the stonecutters, the ones who built the city. They were indeed once alive, and thriving until quite recently. Closer study of their remains has shown that they were crystallized when their silicon-based molecules bonded with oxygen, leading to the formation of quartz. As we know, the Kalanka habitat is at a depth where oxygen does not naturally occur. They therefore developed as an anaerobic life form, i.e. not requiring oxygen to live, instead using the great quantities of methane available to them for respiration. It appears when our science team opened and broke through the Kalanka protective gates and delved into their tunnel system, we exposed them to air and oxygen, leading to an excruciating and drawn-out death as they became exposed. This explains why we found so many statues in odd positions throughout the city. Further surveys have confirmed the Doctor's suspicions. Until the first science team pierced the tunnel system, the Kalanka civilization were indeed alive and thriving. We can only speculate, but the Doctors suggest another race did indeed come here many thousands of years ago, and birthed the civilization just as the tablets suggest. As they left, they built the airlock that kept the Kalanka sealed in place, keeping them safe from the oxygen atmosphere on the surface of the planet, and thus this is how the Kalanka lived until we came along. Doctors Brandybuck and Took do however report it is not all bad news. The discoveries here have led to the invention of a technique where crystals are manufactured synthetically by oxidation of artificially grown silicon-based cell cultures. A large amount of rare crystals have been extracted, and translucer plants have been set up to keep them coming. My lords, obviously the alien lives lost are of little consequence. However, I feel Brandybuck and Took need to be reprimanded. Regardless of the overall outcome, mistakes were made, and genocide, even if accidental, does us no favours on the galactic stage. I leave their punishment in your capable hands, my lords. The next event that we shall discuss concerns that of one of our colonies near the Outer Rim being attacked by a subterranean empire not long after initial colonization had begun. Dr. Phoenix reports. There have been many reports of unexplainable seismic disturbances on Serra. Tremors can be felt across our planet, and many of our settlements have suffered damage. While investigating the earthquakes, one of our scientists discovered a vast network of subterranean caverns beneath us. The deepest of these caverns appear to be home to some kind of indigenous civilization, and they appear to be tunneling towards the surface. Ground vibrations from our settlements may have triggered this behaviour, but we cannot be certain. There is no telling how these aliens will react when they spill out of their tunnels and encounter our colonists. It would appear that we have two options available to us. We can attempt to establish communications, or we can attempt to preemptively strike with the hope to remove any potential threat before it surfaces. As much as we would have liked to preemptively strike, we simply did not have the military capacity in the sector to deal with a significant invasion at this time, although we had called the capital to send immediate ground forces. This would take several months, however. As such, we came to the decision and we fired a probe down into the planet's crust with the hope to begin diplomatic relations. One of our probes managed to burrow through the ground and intercepted the tunneling aliens. After appearing to startle the alien workers, they soon calmed down, and we began diplomatic relations. Our discussions were quick. Essentially, the Subterraneans had become aware of us and wished for peaceful coexistence, and this is certainly something that we were happy to give them. For now. Several months have now passed with little to report, other than the occasional trade between our two peoples. That is until this morning, when a large group of Subterraneans, who we assume to be refugees from the underground alien empire, recently streamed out of their tunnels and onto the surface. They were chased by a small army. It would appear that apparently these refugees were part of some sort of religious minority, and they claimed to be fleeing persecution. Given our terse relations and the simple fact that we didn't want them living with us, we sent them back down the tunnels to the awaiting army. After all, if their god is real, perhaps it will save them. Perhaps not. In any case, they will likely face a mass execution, but that's for their government to deal with, not ours. Within several days of the incident, we received a gift from the Subterranean Empire government. They told us it was a gift to celebrate the friendship between our two civilizations, and it was a caravan bringing a large quantity of gemstones. Stones such as these are apparently mined by their empire deep underground, as close to the planet's core as they dare to venture. These rare stones, or crystals, proved to be very handy in energy weapons research, and as it would happen, after half a year of careful preparation, ground troops have finally arrived in sufficient numbers. We can now commit to a military operation and be done with these irritating aliens. We intend to blockade the surface tunnels and pump a toxic nerve gas into the tunnels. Let us begin. Our efforts to destroy the subterranean aliens on Serra have been met with success. We managed to collapse several of their tunnels on top of their workers, and the caverns that house their cities have been flooded with nerve gas. Casualty projections are close to 100%, and our troops are confident that they will be able to deal with any surviving stragglers. Troopers have been clearing out the nerve gas and the dead alien bodies from the tunnel network, and I'm happy to report that it should now be safe for our colonists to move in. The primitive cities the aliens left behind will be demolished, of course, and replaced with our own advanced architecture. Meanwhile, our troopers are still mapping the tunnel network below the colony. They have come upon a large city belonging to the subterranean aliens that somehow managed to isolate itself from the rest of their underground empire before we flooded it with nerve gas. It would appear that there are millions of frightened aliens in the city, but the troopers dealt with them with little resistance. It was a slaughter. Mining prospectors have ventured into some of the deeper tunnels that once belonged to the now dead subterranean aliens, and they have finally discovered the long-rumoured gold mines, where it was believed that the underground alien empire acquired its large reserve of precious metal. If that wasn't enough good news, we also have reports that scout units exploring the tunnel network have entered the royal palace in what was once the capital city of the underground alien empire. The corpse of what passed for their emperor is still perched on a massive throne in the main chamber. It will make quite a chair for the new governor. After using explosive charges to breach the palace treasury, our scouts found it filled with gold and strange alien art. The art will be shipped back to museums on Unity, and the sale of the gold should provide a nice boost to our state budget. Glory to the Commonwealth of Man. Our final report, my lords, will be covering the consequences of what happened to an empire who dug too deep. Dr. Collins investigates. During routine surveillance of the Zeta cluster, we identified an Arctic world. The world had indications that a civilization once lived and thrived here. And further investigation concluded that an arthropod race called the Staltons once colonized this world several millennia ago. They appeared to have been a subterranean empire with an authoritarian government type, and appeared to revel in using slave labor to produce basic resource across their empire. Quite what the conditions would have been like for these poor souls, we can only imagine. But it was likely that they were forced underground, permanently, and worked day and night. it would appear that these slaves were heavily involved in mineral extraction on this world in particular. The cave network under their subterranean cities is quite marvellous, stretching hundreds of kilometres deep, honeycombing throughout the planet's crust. During excavations of this cave network, it became apparent that some form of calamitous event has occurred here. It appears that the previous occupants left in quite a hurry. We have found several data terminals and hacking attempts are ongoing, but we hope to find some log entries that will detail further what happened here. Several weeks have now passed and we have managed to explore much of the cave network that honeycombs the planet. We have also successfully managed to translate several logs detailing at least some of the events that happened here. I shall read them for you now. Geological surveys have revealed that the planet is richer in minerals than we first thought. After calibrating our sensors to penetrate deeper into the ground, we have discovered several promising mining sites. Should we direct additional resources to probing efforts, we might yet uncover deeper veins of useful ores. We have found that unlike other planets we have encountered during exploration, probing the surface of this world is quite a tedious process. Our scanners are not reacting well to the ground composition, and shifts in the geological layers mean that we have to recalibrate them each time we use them. Nevertheless, we have discovered more exploitable veins of high quality ore. Their depths make the logistics of the mining operation more complex than usual, but it will take more than that to stop us. There is no assurance that an additional probing operation will lead us to more mineral veins, but we shall find them. No matter how deep the minerals are hidden, we will find them and extract them. After all, it is what we do. Others might give up when confronted with unstable grounds, great depths, or the logistics of maintaining transport tunnels, but we do not. The underground is our home, and if we know where to look, it will provide. The lower we go, the higher quality and quantity of the ore. Our latest samples have even hinted at the presence of rare crystals, deeper still. We are reaching new depths in our mining operations. As predicted, we are encountering clusters of rare crystals that shine in vivid hues of oranges, yellows and reds, as the light passes through them. At times, it looks as if a brazier is illuminating the caves where we find them, casting shifting shadows on the walls. We have also made a puzzling observation. It looks as if over the millennia, these crystals have been slowly migrating towards the centre of the planet. We are confident that there will be more to find if only we dig deeper towards the core. Our mining operations continue, but we have begun to encounter unexpected difficulties. These are ranging from mild tremors to shifting crystal veins. Something is going on. Despite all our experience in subterranean tunneling, we have no idea what this is. These circumstances are making it hard to work in secure conditions, and we have already lost several cohorts of slaves and ore in unpredictable accidents and collapses. The setbacks, though costly, ultimately matter not. The life of the slave pales in value to the worth of the ore that we can extract. Operations will continue. As our surveyors delve ever deeper, we are finding more and more crystals littering their paths. Finally, we reached a gigantic cavern, many hundreds of miles deep into the planet. As our surveyors delved ever deeper, we found more and more crystals littering their paths. Finally, one of our deepest research teams reached a gigantic cavern, many hundreds of miles deep into the planet. But suddenly, we lost communication. The last thing that we know is that they were in the process of setting up lights and various sensors to study the cave. A comms channel was left open. All we heard was screams, pain, death, and destruction. The cause, however, was soon revealed when the other geological surveyors detected multiple echoes tunneling at tremendous speed towards our colonies. Not long after, amid quakes and tremors, we were attacked by a crystalline entity of tremendous proportion. It is not unlike the spaceborne crystals, but it seems to be highly aggressive and capable of using the reconstructive capabilities of its kind to reshape its body in an instant. While the core of the entity remains buried deep, it spawns tentacle-like appendages that dig through the ground looking to attack us or to absorb more crystals to grow larger. Projections are grim, and we might be looking at the end of our colony. Our defense force is not equipped to deal with this level of attack. I suggest that we pull back the personnel we can and leave the planet to this creature. No amount of minerals or rare crystal will be worth the effort required to dislodge this entity. It would appear that after these events, the Stellatons abandoned the planet, leaving the immense amount of resource buried deep inside the planet's core. Despite our own excavations, we have yet to come across the crystal entity, who we assume remains buried deep somewhere. Investigations continue, but I have relayed communications back to Earth regarding our situation. They are sending a significant contingent of newly produced mechanized troop transports, hunter-killer machines, designed to kill without morality or hesitation. Perhaps they will be handy should this entity still live. We've sent out waves of surveillance drones to map the deepest parts of the cavernous tunnels, and we can now confirm that the crystalline entity exists. Our cohort of hunter-killer drones has arrived. Sleek and metallic, they resemble humanoids. Their matte black armour is designed to seamlessly blend into the shadowy recesses of the underground world. The machines stand roughly 3 meters in height. Each one is equipped with advanced sensors, including infrared and sonar. They will detect even the slightest movement in their target. We've armed them with mining lasers and cutting blades. They should have no problem dealing with this creature. After a grueling campaign, the crystalline entity dwelling at the heart of the planet has been defeated. The final battle took place deep underground, in the cave housing the core of the crystal behemoth. And only after did we manage to shatter it did the beast stop fighting. Its various appendages disintegrated, losing cohesion at molecular level and sprinkling crystal dust across the planet. The innumerable tunnels left in the wake of the crystal tentacles are going to help us a lot in our efforts to mine the exceptionally rich minerals composing this world. As for the origin of the entity itself, we are left with many questions, but we may have just gained some insight in the way that the spacefaring crystalline entities are created. We lost several hundred robots in the engagement, but they performed well enough. I shall recommend their use again should the environment suit. However, given the opportunity, I would quite like to test the qualities of the Xenomorph ground division. Thanks for watching, folks. If you want to hear more Stellaris lore, please click the video on screen now.